Okay, so welcome to the deep dive, everybody. Today, we're going to be tackling, well, pretty huge question. I mean, what's going to happen with jobs here in the USA thanks to AI by, let's say, 2025? You guys sent in some really interesting stuff, laying out some wildly different potential futures. We're talking everything from like massive job losses to some people even saying a world with way less work. So we're going to break it all down, try to give you a clear picture of what those arguments really are.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head. I think what's so interesting right away is just how different these perspectives are. Like one side, the stuff you shared, it's really worried about significant job displacement, especially in manufacturing. I think, those repetitive jobs on an assembly line. But it's not just that. Retail and administrative roles too. We could be talking 20, even 30% of those jobs being impacted.
Wow. Okay, so we're talking actual numbers here. And your sources, they get even more specific, right? Like with examples. Self-driving trucks. That's a big one that keeps coming up. Because, if AI logistics, using AI to plan the best routes, schedules, all that, if it gets so much more efficient, then you don't need as many human drivers, right? And then there's all those automated kiosks popping up everywhere. It's hard not to see the impact on cashier jobs. Because this feels like we're talking about a way bigger shift than just, few people losing their jobs here and there.
Totally agree. It becomes a much bigger question of how do whole sectors even adapt when the landscape changes that much, right? But of course, there's that flip side too, the more optimistic take. A lot of your sources point out that AI, sure, it might displace some jobs, but it's also going to be this huge driver of brand new industries, creating all these higher value roles that we can't even fully imagine yet.
Right. So it's not just subtracting jobs, but kind of shuffling them around, creating new ones. And your sources have some pretty interesting examples. AI trainers, for instance. These are the folks who actually teach the AI systems. Then there's ethics auditors. That's a new one. They basically make sure the AI is being used responsibly. And some sources even talked about VR architects, people designing whole virtual experiences. And it makes me think of when ATMs came on the scene. Maybe you didn't need as many bank tellers, but then there were all these new jobs focused on customer service, tech support, that kind of thing.
I like that comparison, really gets at the heart of it. And think about the ripple effects beyond just new job titles. Imagine teachers being able to use AI to handle all the grading, freeing them up to do more, mentorship, really developing each student's potential. That could be huge.
That's a great point. But, and this is something your sources really hammer on, how does someone who's worked in a factory in Ohio their whole life, how do they suddenly become an AI ethics auditor? Mm-hmm. That's a pretty massive skill gap.
No question. That's where, thinking ahead, being proactive is so crucial. A lot of what we read talked about the need for really strong reskilling programs. The programs designed to give people the specific skills they'd need for these emerging AI-related fields. And then there's an even bigger conversation, about social safety nets, things like universal basic income or decoupling healthcare from employment. Big, complex stuff.
Yeah, no kidding. And it really highlights, as your sources point out, that it's not just about the tech itself, right? It's about the choices we make as a society. Government policies, how we decide to support people through this transition. It's all going to play a huge role.
Absolutely. And it's fascinating to see some early examples of that playing out already. One source talked about what they called the green tech boom, which is basically AI being used to make solar panels more efficient or to manage smart grids, all that. And that's creating demand for a whole range of jobs, from more technical roles to, the folks who are actually out there installing and maintaining all this stuff. And then there are those AI-powered learning tools that are popping up. One source specifically mentions SkillBridge. This platform uses AI to help people develop personalized learning plans, learn things like coding or even biotech based on their individual needs.
So it sounds like for our listeners out there who might be, writers or marketers, and they're wondering if AI is about to steal their jobs, the takeaway from these sources is maybe it's more about figuring out how to work with AI, almost thinking of it as a really, really efficient intern, right? One that can handle some of the more tedious tasks, but it's still the human creativity, the strategy, all that. That's going to be key.
Yeah, that seems to be the emerging consensus. It's less about replacement and more about figuring out how to best leverage AI to enhance what humans can do. The real winners, the leaders in this new world, are going to be the folks who figure out how to really integrate AI seamlessly into their teams.
So it feels like, we can probably ditch those super extreme predictions, right? Like it's probably not going to be a world without any jobs, but it's also probably not going to be some perfect leisure utopia either. It's something in between. And what we do, the choices we make, especially when it comes to things like fairness and supporting people, that's what's going to matter most.
Couldn't agree more. And if we zoom out even further, your sources do hint at some really exciting possibilities. If we get this right, we could see things like, people working fewer hours but still making a good living. Healthcare could become more accessible. Innovation could happen even faster. But again, it all depends on how we choose to develop and use AI.
So there you have it, everyone. We've done our best to dive deep into all these different perspectives on how AI could be reshaping the job market here in the US by, well, just a few years from now, 2025. If there's one thing to take away from all this, it's that the future isn't like set in stone. It's something we're building right now with every decision we make.
That brings us to a, I think, really crucial question for everyone listening. Given everything we've talked about today, what skills, what specific abilities do you think are going to be the most valuable in a world that's, more and more shaped by artificial intelligence? Something to ponder for sure.